welcome back to another edition of the Change My Mind podcast.
I won't change my mind because I don't have to, because I'm an American.
Yes, you are, and I'm Wesley Sykes, and to the other side of the ether is the Tyler. To my bill is Mr. Nicholas J. Eskfryer, Tornado Wrangler for hire.
You know, I'm blanking now on what Kate called herself. Well, she was trying to tame or tornado. Is that what it was, or something like that?
Well, she was trying to combust, dissolve.
Yeah, but there was a term that felt similar to Wrangler, where it was not too far. I think it was tame, where it's not too far of a jump, as ridiculous as Tornado Wrangler sounds on its own.
Tornado Tamer is pretty good. That would be 7 News tease into a video package story. You know, coming up after the break, we meet Tewksbury's Tornado Tamer and who he is. But tune in next. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But Tornado Wrangler, I appreciate that. It was funny, and I'm very excited to have this debate and to bury you, quite honestly.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you will blow me away because court is back in session this week, as Nick and I will be discussing Twister versus Twisters in an original versus reboot sequel.
I don't know. I labeled it a sequel.
Prequel? Yeah. Nevertheless, it's an original versus sequel debate, trademarked. But before that, Nick, somewhat related intro question. What part of the country, I may have asked you this before, 281 episodes, so the likelihood of kind of redoing some of these is probably high. But what part of the country would you not want to live in due to extreme weather conditions? Your hurricanes, your nor'easters, your extreme heat or cold, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, mudslides, etc.
Yeah, where the hell are the mudslides?
California, I think.
Is that California? Okay, all right.
And places with mountain ranges. I think Vermont just had a pretty bad mudslide within the past year.
Okay, duly noted. So not to be confused with mud pies. Also, I want to make sure that we're clear.
Yeah, you may want your mud pies. In some parts of the country, they may be considered a delicacy.
I was more thinking along the lines of the whole I think you should leave bit, but that's just me. Anyways, I guess for me, probably tornadoes. And we actually had one up here, a little bit north of us, not too long ago. I don't know how severe it was, but there was there was a tornado warning. I feel like it was a few weeks before the movie came out, so it was a little odd timing because I don't recall the last time there was one in New Hampshire, and I don't recall ever hearing about one in Massachusetts when I lived in Massachusetts. But yeah, I would probably say tornado seems like the most terrifying. Obviously, earthquakes are brutal as well.
Yeah,
but at least I don't know. I feel like with earthquakes, it just seems I mean, obviously the damage on those both at maximum level is brutal, but I don't know. Something about tornado just seems a little extra to me versus an earthquake.
Tornadoes is definitely up there. I left off volcanoes, but so I guess that kind of leaves out Hawaii. That's unfortunate because it's such a beautiful area. But that coupled with being on an island so far away from land is kind of frightening. You're really just stuck out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The Cape actually had a not a tornado, but maybe a cyclone. Is that the lesser version?
I think that's on the water. That's what it
means. Yeah. So I think there was one over Buzzards Bay, or maybe kind of around the canal-ish area, but nothing that really materialized. I'm not even sure if it lasted there, but I remember seeing that it was there's a tornado area, and the East Coast isn't really safe from earthquakes. I mean, we don't have serious ones, but I'm sure within the past few years, I don't know if you recall or remember.
I remember
the earthquakes. Yeah,
I felt that pretty significantly. I very much remember being on the 8th floor of my building and being like, "What the fuck was that?" Yeah. And then there was a second shake, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then I look at Twitter later, and it's like, "Oh, we just had an earthquake." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Terrible location to be in. I mean, it was very sturdy. We were fine, but it's just 8th floor of a building, not ideal for an earthquake.
Not where you want to be.
Nope.
Same place for a tornado, for that matter. You don't want to be up there as well.
Nope.
How about I'm choosing the final two non-continental states in the United States here, but Alaska One, you're up there, so you get extreme cold, but you also get extreme daylight nighttime too, which would I'm not sure if that's weather per se, but that would
Weird.
definitely screw with us.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Snow.
I will say I would rather deal with cold than deal with like excessive heat. I just maybe just growing up with it so much, but I'm not talking like Arizona. It sounds like that dry heat obviously can get up way high, but at least there's not that humidity. Whereas like
Hmm.
a Florida, like I wouldn't want to deal with that. And then they are much more inclined to deal with hurricanes than we are. Not that we haven't had our share of those or tropical storms up here. But like that's another thing that obviously brutal. But this is where it's like kind of with the Northeast, like we get a little bit of everything. Some things not,
Hmm.
more so than others. But I just feel like we are like we kind of have it good in that way where we just don't get anything too nuts.
Especially in like the last 5 years, I feel like the winters for the most part have been pretty mild, maybe with the exception of like a snowstorm or two, but there
Mhm.
really isn't that much. I would, however, trade off the minor inconvenience of earthquakes to be in like Southern California.
That's fair. I
Because they
can,
don't happen like that often, The threat of them is definitely scary.
yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I understand that logic, and it's pretty. I mean, like obviously it's beautiful in Southern California. I mean, San Diego, there's no place like it in terms of weather. But um,
Or even
I
like North Dakota, or not North Carolina, South Carolina, where you're like, all right, you got to deal with like worse hurricanes than we do up here.
mhm.
But you pretty much have like mild winters guaranteed, and then the summers again are a little more humid, but not like Florida, New Orleans heat.
It's interesting. The Carolinas, I feel like, are always a place that I hear from people like as a place of interest to
Hmm.
potentially move. Like it's like, oh, if I'm not gonna live where I grew up or where I am, like I want to eventually live down in one of the Carolinas. Like that's like I know you didn't go necessarily that far in in your statement, but
My
still, like
dad has though.
okay, so there you go. So your dad, I know like people from like people I've met through Lauren who feel that way, and then some of my teammates from different parts of the country also felt that way that they love the
Hmm.
Carolinas and would want to go down there. And it's just like, I mean, I like them. Don't get me wrong. I find it very interesting that everybody kind of has that same feeling. Doesn't matter where you are necessarily about the Carolinas, but I think for me in the end, it's like anywhere the tornadoes happen frequently. As much as like I've enjoyed visiting Oklahoma before. I wouldn't want to deal with that like extreme unpredictable threat.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so yeah, I'm like, I'll go with Alaska. I'll go with Alaska on that one. That's my
That's
official
fair.
answer. I'm
Well,
stamping
Alaska
down
is
on
a
it.
pretty fair answer, quite honestly.
It's always fair and balanced. We can't say that about everything these days. It's the comic book minute, and it's coming up right now.
Ah, a superb choice.
Yeah, so pretty big week with Marvel. We got the start of Uncanny X-Men. The first issue of that is out this week. This is all again part of the From the Ashes era, the post Krakoa era, and this is one of the main titles for this new X-Men era. We have I forget what the third X-Men title is, but there's Uncanny. Then there's just regular X-Men, which did start previously. So excited to check this one out. Then we got Venom War issue 1 from Image. We got Ain't No Grave issue 4. Public Domain issue 7 and Gunslinger Spawn 34. And we'll be talking about those and plenty more on TLDR this week. We're doing What's New. Joe and I are finally doing back out of the Christmas in July event that we did. But at the same time, whenever we're doing What's New, it usually means we may or may not have another conversation coming later in the week. So
Uh,
stops for that. Christmas in July may be over, but the interviews don't stop. So that is it for the Comic Book Minute.
yes, the interviews don't quit, and that hat doesn't quit. That outfit doesn't quit, Nick. I'm sorry I didn't comment that at the top of the program here, but you were looking very sharp. This is kind of like in your element right now.
A little bit, yeah. It's I haven't had an excuse to wear this hat a whole lot. I only did it once on the show previously. I can't remember what the hell it was for.
Oh, that's a good
Bugging me.
question.
Yeah,
Oh, that is a good question. I don't know.
I have to dig back into the archives. That's like, and that was like, we'd have to like find it. Maybe it's on you. I don't know if we were streaming on YouTube at that point either. If we were just doing.
Yeah, what's a
Mhm.
country movie that we did recently? I don't know.
It was
That's
a
something I'll have
while
to
back. I feel like it was 2020, 2021 at least. Like that I have as a ballpark.
All right.
Yeah, so it's been a
Yeah, I
while
don't know.
back.
I'll have to rack my brain about that here.
Mhm.
But Nevertheless, we have our main topic today, which is Twisters versus Twister, an original versus sequel debate. Flip that and reverse it. Twister versus Twisters. Just to get that correct here.
Mm.
And like I said, court is back in session. So for those of you who are completely new to this concept and this idea, each one of us is going to be taking a side. I will be representing Twister. Nick will be representing Twisters. And we'll give a little tale of the tape of each movie. And then we'll have our opening statements, much like a courtroom drama would hold, where we have about 45 seconds to kind of state our case. Then we have specific questions where we'll go tit for tat, each having 1 minute to give our responses. And then if they would like, 30 seconds to respond to the opponent's response before moving on to the next question. And then we wrap everything up with our closing arguments, just to remind everyone, nice little synopsis of our arguments here. And then I will forget to put this out on Twitter or just neglect it outright. We will never know the winner. And then we're going to end the series or the show with me just constantly naming the cast and crews for all of our remaining movies.
That was a great summary of it all. We are professional debaters on this show, so I am excited to get. Yeah, some would say master debaters. I'm excited to get one final debate in, and I think Twister versus Twisters is a great one to have because these are both strong movies, but it's similar, but also quite different too.
Yeah, and this took a little time to get to. I think this came out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But you know, we just between The Boys and Deadpool and Wolverine, that we had some more pressing issues to attend to before getting to this. But as Nick will explain in his synopsis, Twister's done very well in the theater so far. So a lot of people have seen this movie. But we're going to go back to 1996 for Twister. And the synopsis is 2 storm chasers on the brink of divorce must work together to create an advanced weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshairs of extremely violent tornadoes. That's a good synopsis. You know, maybe in 96, there's not as many trailers, not as many eyeballs to get viewing on these sort of things. So you need a really good description to get people in the theater. So I think that does it. This was directed by John DeBont, starring Helen Hunt as Dr. Joe Harding, Bill Paxton as Bill Harding. Always love when the actor goes by their real name in the movie. That makes it really, really easy. Then we have Jamie Gertz as Dr. Melissa Reeves, Carrie Elwes as Dr. Jonas Miller, Lois Smith as Meg Green, Philip Seymour Hoffman as Dusty, Alan Ruck, you might know him better as Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, as Rabbit, Sean Whalen as Alan Sanders, Scott Thompson as Preacher, Todd Field as Belzer, Joey Slotnick as Joey, there we go again, Wendell Josepher as Hayes, and Jeremy Davies as Lawrence. This movie hauled in $241.7 million in a domestic-only release, including $41 million on its opening weekend on a $92 million budget.
Nice.
Received a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, with a 66-58 split on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa.
And then a 43 or a 4.3 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 85% of Google users liking this movie.
And a 58 from the audience. That's remarkable.
I'm surprised because this seems like, again, right in that like sweet spot of the late 90s, like disaster action blockbuster movies.
Yeah, and this also doesn't feel like a movie that people would like be passionate enough to just like downvote it or whatever the hell they do with Rotten Tomatoes enough. Like it would just like either you enjoy it or it's just like, yeah, whatever, I don't really care about it. Like,
I wonder if this kind of you know, 'cause again, with the box office numbers, this did pretty well. You know, for 1996, pulling in, you know, almost $250 million on a domestic only release. But I wonder if, you know, where Rotten Tomatoes came years after Twisters came out, I wonder if it kind of went through like a retroactive kind of like market correction where people didn't really like the movie, kind of overlooked it. And then now maybe once news of like this movie getting rebooted in a sense with Twisters, people have gone back and be like, oh, I kind of like it again.
Yeah, maybe it's just I didn't. Maybe I also didn't. I did not see the original Twister until fairly recently. And I you know, I was like, this is a good movie. It holds up. Like it's not dated. It really. I mean, I'm sure there's some elements of it that I'm not thinking of right now, but it's just like this is Like if you made that movie now, maybe improved on some special effects or whatever, but it's like they still did a solid job. Just a 66 from the critics, I can understand.
Yeah.
I still think that is a little low, but from the audience, the fact that it's not in the 70s is kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, this movie is not made to win awards, so I'm
No.
kind of surprised that the audience score would be lower than the critic
Yes.
score on that. Yeah.
Very much agree with that. As for Twisters, which of course just came out this year, 2024, the synopsis: a retired tornado chaser and meteorologist is persuaded to return to Oklahoma to work with a new team in new technologies. The cast and crew, directed by Lee Isaac Chung, starring Daisy Edgar Jones as Kate, Glenn Powell as Tyler, Anthony Ramos as Javi, Brandon Perea as Boone, Maura Tierney as Kathy, Harry Hayden Patton as Ben, Sasha Lane as Lily, Daryl McCormack as Jeb, Kiernan Shipka as Addie, Nick Dodani as Praveen, David Cornsweet as Scott, Tundi Adebimpe as Dexter, Katie
Nice.
O'Brien as Danny, and David Bourne as Riggs. This hauled in already 274.3 million worldwide, 195.5 million domestic, and in its opening weekend got 81.2 million. And this is all on a $115 million budget. So this
All
is
right.
a success monetarily as well. This has a 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and then a 75-92 split on Rotten Tomatoes, a 4.0 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 92% of Google users liking this movie. I think the 75 is fair. I think it might be a smidge low because I think this is a better. I think Twisters is a little bit better than Twister, but 75 is
Okay.
fair.
Yeah, I would say this would fall into like the high 70, low 80s range.
Yes.
Mid to low 80s range. So if you're looking like 77 to 85, I think
Yeah.
anywhere around then, I think that's kind of where I would see it. I feel like 92 is a little high. I personally, not to tip my hand, but also kind of obvious at this point with who we're debating, enjoy Twister more than this movie. Although this was a fun, again, popcorn type of blockbuster movie.
Yeah, and I can see how anyone would be like, it's. I think this is like a close conversation. I do think I have the edge here, but I can see why anyone would be like, no, I like Twister more. A 92, probably a smidge high, but I don't think it's crazy far off. I feel like I would probably give it like a solid 88.
Mm-hmm.
Probably wouldn't go higher than that, but like maybe 89 at most.
Yeah, I would say, find the average of 75 and 92, and that's probably where you'll find me.
That's a pretty good call.
Meet me in the middle,
Yeah, exactly. So that is a 83 and a half.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And again,
There
that
you go.
falls kind of right in that high C, low B range there.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Okay, so Nick, do you want to give your opening statement first?
I do.
Or
Do we
would you
wanna-
like me to give the opening statement?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you want me to run through all these questions for everybody beforehand like we did last time?
Yes, that sounds
Okay.
great. And I'll pull up the clocks here.
Okay, so we are going to be doing answering 5 debate questions throughout this conversation. Which movie features the better crew leader? Which crew would you rather be a part of? Which story had the better romantic element? Which opposing crew was the better tornado adversary? And which plot was more compelling? So keeping it simple, all very much catered to this movie as well. I think this is I think this conversation is going to be one of our better representations of like the differences between these two movies.
Because of the similarities.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. So would you? I know you asked me. You know what? I'm going to give you the chance to go.
I'll go first. I'm the original here, defending the original. That feels right.
Yes, it does feel right. Absolutely. So you have 1 minute on the clock to make your opening argument in your defense of Twister being superior to Twisters. 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, people of the jury, thank you for taking the time out here to do your civic duty and listen to these arguments here. But my argument's quite simple. 1996 Twister is no frills. We're the star of the movie, although you have future Academy Award winner Helen Hunt co-starring in this. The movie is really about Twister. It's about the tornadoes. And that's the star of the film, in my opinion, here. And it does a lot of that. Now my opponent will probably say that they have
30.
better CGI, bigger name actors, a little bit more spectacle behind it. But that's the difference between Tyler and Bill, and that's what I'm going to get through here today. Is that, Bill is a blue collar movie actor character, and Twisters is a blue collar movie for the people that isn't trying to showboat too much. They're just trying to do their job and chase a few storms along the way. And that's what I'm going to show you. It's a great ride
3
for all people.
Oop. Sorry.
You got some emo rock going over there?
No, that emo rock. That was Kenny
punk?
That was Kenny Chesney.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah. I accidentally set the timer instead of, I usually do my stopwatch. So sorry everybody. Hopefully we don't get flagged for that one.
You got like a power hour you're scheduled to go to after this?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, I set a 1-minute timer for you, and like a dumbass instead of doing the stopwatch. Anyways, all right, I will take my full minute to make my opening argument.
All right, and that starts in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are at a time where reboots and sequels are all the rage without the guarantee of box office success. Yet, Twisters has risen above it all. As good as the original Twister was, Twisters is an improvement from an emotional standpoint, a romantic standpoint, and just all around stakes. And as this debate unfolds, I will hammer out those 3 points.
30 seconds.
Again, emotional investment, romance, the stakes, and prove why that makes Twisters, its predecessors, superior. That's all I need.
Wow, 45 seconds.
Yep.
15 on the clock. You don't get those 15 seconds back. They don't roll over.
Nope, that's fair, but I don't. We're gonna start picking apart and stuff like that. That's like it's a primer for everybody else. So.
Okay, all right, just laying down the foundation. I like it.
Yeah.
Question number 1, as Nick already mentioned, which movie features the better crew leader?
Mm-hmm. So I would lead us off here.
Okay, so a point of distinction here. Crew leader, I could kind of go one of two ways here, or should it be a team?
I think you can okay. So this is a fair question, and I thought about it as well, and then I was like, I'm just going to go in the direction that I see fit. I feel like there's 2 people you can make a case for in each of our movies,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a case you can make as units as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think whatever direction you go in, there's criticisms that can be made inherently with each individual or as a team. So that's
okay.
I'm open to whatever you decide. I know what I want to do in this.
I did this as kind of a partnership because it appears that Bill was the lead of the group at one point in time, and then after the divorce, Joe became the leader, and then at that point in time when he's trying to get the divorce paper signed, they kind of like team back up again. They kind of like are co-captains at that point. So I was like, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, it is tough. And I think with my movie, there's cases to be made as well. But I landed in one I made a decision on it. And
I think yours is a little more clear.
I think that's also fair. Yeah, I think that's also fair. So yeah. So all right. So okay. Good to know what direction you're thinking. But I am ready for my minute to make my first point.
All right. So 60 seconds on the clock on which movie features the better crew leader starts now.
So we have 2 people that are seen as crew leaders in Twisters. We have Kate, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, and Tyler, played by Glenn Powell. Of course, things transpire with Katie as the movie, right off the rip with the movie, and she kind of falls back. Obviously, goes through a life change. Tyler is the leader of this movie. When we talk about the crew leader, he is the man, and he makes sure too that his buddies get theirs as well. Like, he's not the type to hog the limelight as much as he's the star and very much knows it. Similarly, he can identify talent and let it flourish without letting his ego get in the way. And that is specific to Kate, where he identifies how good she is, brings her into his team, and works with her. And obviously they fall in love and everything like that, but he knows how to work with people who are talented. Knows how to fully utilize each member of his crew, loyal to his crew. I mean, when he apologized to Boone, didn't need to do it in that moment. Always tries to keep it loose, can delegate and get his hands dirty, save his teammates, and I almost repeated myself at the end there. I almost repeated myself. Woo, that was close. All right. Oh, my headphones are out.
Oh boy.
The one negative about this hat, and I can't make a change mid episode, but I was gonna because I would change my headphones too, but I can't wear my normal headset, and
yeah.
This is these are airplane.
Well, you go in fashion over function. It's a decision we all make from time to time. You know?
Gotta sacrifice looks for comfort sometimes. But in this instance, Wes, you are all. I got nothing to pivot into that. You got 30 seconds on the clock, or would you like to just go full 90?
No, 30 seconds. Let's do it.
All right, 30 seconds on the clock. 3, 2, 1, go.
See, I had a little bit different of a read on Tyler. I saw him as giving way to Kate because he was trying to get in her pants. He was immediately attracted and immediately struck by her. And then he was also using her for information as well. So obviously
15.
That's maybe a little on the dark end, but that was kind of my read. And then he kind of realizes, hey, this girl's really smart. Hey, she's beautiful. I want to be with her as well. But that was kind of my vibe. So, and he's definitely a media whore too.
I'm all over the place with the buttons. All right,
now if you can play the comic book minute and get the ticking down and then going into the done, that's really good. Like for the final 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So let's see how long that is. 1, 2.
A superb.
Okay. All right. We'll see. That'll be
fun.
We'll try. All right. So you now make a case for why your crew leader or crew leaders is better than Tyler, Glenn Powell's Tyler. 60 seconds on the clock, sir. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so as I kind of discussed before getting into this, Billy and Joe, I think, are great partners. Though they're divorced, they still work very well together. They both give each other opportunities to shine. They both kind of take the lead and step back, play the alpha to the beta to the alpha sometimes. Neither really have their egos involved, which is, I know, something my opponent said about his main character, but it's very clear that he's egocentric. Just look at the wallpaper behind him. I mean, he's loving it. And they're in it for the truth and science. They're not looking for views or dollars. They're in it for the love of the game. I think both characters are way more down to earth, and their desire to help people is behind the scenes. They don't see themselves as the heroes or try to make themselves out the heroes as Tyler and Kate do in this movie. They have an everyman mentality. Bill Paxton is by no means the superstar that Glenn Powell is. And that is reflected in his choice in character, even Helen Hunt for that matter.
Just can't press any right buttons. For some reason, the comic minute though, it went to it like fast forwarded. It didn't see.
A superb choice.
See,
I think you got to play it through.
Yeah,
that might be the issue.
Yeah, unfortunately. So yeah,
it's Morphin time.
Oh wait, who's pressing these buttons now?
It is Morphin time. Yes, so let's morph into your response. 30 seconds on the clock starts right now.
So when it comes to the being out in front and all that kind of stuff and the attention, I will address that in another question a little bit later on. But Wes's team doesn't even know who their leader is. You have two leaders. They are going through these marital struggles and it is creating problems left and right. With my team, you know who's in charge and no one's trying to get in the way of that. And they work as a full cohesive unit. His team works as a cohesive unit as well, but there's always this chance of underlying tensions that could pop up somewhere along the way. As much as they resolve it by the end of the movie, it could get worse after. Whew. Yeah, when you said that, I was because when I was doing the notes, I was like, Kate's not like she was a leader of her own team, but it's clearly Tyler and mine. And I was like, with his, it's not as clear. And I swear, if he goes the 2 route, I'm ready for it. So mentally ready for it.
I'm glad you kind of chest move, game theoried that out a little bit there.
I couldn't like, that's why when you asked me, I'm like, do what you want. There are weaknesses to all of them. I didn't want to
but Kate also, she kind of leads Javi's group too.
She does kind of lead Javi's group too. There's definitely she leads twice, and obviously one time it goes very, it's very unfortunate, and then the other times it's like she actually did a good job. She just kind of had some PTSD that she had to, or PTS that she had to deal with. But
Anyways. I'm not sure. Okay, so this won't come up all that much in our debate questions, but one question I had about Twisters just before we move on: how crazy is it that Javi was on her team when she loses everybody, including the love of her life.
Mhm.
And then he comes back and he's like, there's only one person that I know that can handle these tornadoes, and it's you. And he sticks her right in the middle of a tornado. Like, talk about like trauma inducing, like
Yeah, like
that didn't really sit right with me.
when he because like, okay, one's gonna be on one side, one's gonna be on the other, and then one's gonna be in the front. So I get that she has the best feel for everything, but so like from in an ideal world, you have her at the front, but also it's like, what? Put her on
Is she
one
going
of
to
the
be able to
sides.
pull the trigger?
Yeah, put her on one of the sides where it seems to be a little bit safer, where it's not like coming right at you guys. It's just
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like putting like a murder victim back into like a very like murderous scene. It's like, let's bring her to a murder scene because she's been in a murder.
Yeah.
So you go look at the dead bodies and tell us who did it. It's like that kind of thing. It's like, whoa, let's have some respect for the trauma here.
Yeah, it was Javi definitely had some odd decisions being made. But you know what? I think with that too, where he makes some poor decisions. I mean, even like in terms of business and stuff like that, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
I think by having him be like the slacker kind of guy, like the Philip Seymour Hoffman type character of the original group that he was in, he kind of laid a good foundation for like, I see how that guy could turn into what he becomes, because he's trying to make something of himself. As much as he's kind of on the bad guy side, he's like, I don't do anything and no one believes in me. So it's like, I need, like, now I have my chance to do that.
Yeah, that's why he joined the Marines or the Army or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely there. All right. Question number 2. As a follow-up, which crew would you rather be a part of? So I think you'll be leading us off here.
No, you will be leading us off.
Oh, that's right. I had the opening statement.
Yes, you have 60 seconds on the clock to talk why Twister has the superior crew of the two. 3, 2, 1.
Nick already mentioned one half of my answer, and it's any crew with Dusty, aka Philip Seymour Hoffman, is the crew that I want to be a part of. Moreover, what is his name there? Oh, I'm blanking on his name. What is it? Alan Ruck's character, Cameron Fry, Rabbit.
There you go.
His character, those two people I really want to be a part of. And again, they seem really invested in the relationship of Joe and Bill, the rest of the crew. They seem very close in it, despite of what my opponent might say. They seem invested in wanting to see them get back together. And that when one of them was leading, or when it was just Joe, it felt like they were missing something. And when Bill comes back, they are very excited. Also, very welcoming group, because they welcome in his fiance, Melissa, right into the group. And there's really like no animosity, whether that's between Joe and Melissa or any of the other team members and Melissa. They welcome her right in, which I thought was really a sign of strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I don't think I want to. Do I want to pick apart your crew? I don't think I want to pick apart your crew. I genuinely don't.
Do you want the 90 seconds or just 60?
I'm gonna take the. I will take the 90. I don't know if I'm going to use it all, but I will take the 90 just to make my point.
Okay. 90 seconds on why Nick would rather choose the Twisters crew to be a part of starts right now.
Yeah, so I don't want to break down the Twister crew, because they are a good group of people and are a good group of individuals. At the same time, Tyler's crew is superior because they are out on the front lines in a specific way. Yes, they are going and on YouTube and like utilizing that to go and make, like, using these natural disasters to make this channel. However, they are trying to take a terrible situation and make a positive out of it. So they're adding entertainment value, but then more importantly, as we learn, they are using their experiences to help those in need. These are not people who, like, Tyler's group is not this group of individuals that come from a ton of money. So it's not like they can go and necessarily make a massive amount of impact with these unpredictable natural disaster. Instead, they are always there for people when the bad shit happens. I mean, and even we see at the end where the big Twister comes and they try and warn everybody, their crew is on top of that, as opposed to the crew that they are opposite of.
60 seconds.
And again, like, there is a level of like, yeah, we're good at what we do, and we're like, kind of like internet stars and stuff, but they're still like they're still approachable individuals. Like, they're not egos. And also from a story standpoint, they're kind of familiar to what Kate's old crew had as well. They are different, but they are family. They are close-knit. They have each other's back, and then they want to help others who need them, and they want to support those who support them. I guess I needed the full 90. Jesus.
You got the full 90 there, yeah.
Who knew that was coming? Not me. All right, so you got 30 seconds on the clock to make your counterpoint regarding which crew is the superior of the two. 3, 2, 1.
I will give credit to Tyler's team. If for nothing else, the FPV super drone, getting an opportunity to fly that would be really cool. Love that. Otherwise, they have all the updated technology that the bad guys have in the original Twister movie, which the original gang kind of discredits them for. My gang is using maps. They're using old tech, and they're using their hearts and their minds to find these tornadoes here, and their wits about them. None of this fancy gadget stuff.
None of this.
In a way, you could say that's a bit of a sellout move.
You could say that it is a bit of a sellout move. But in the end, they do have their one person who has the abilities to read it. That's a thing we're not going to talk about in here. But I feel like in Twister with Bill, it's like he has this odd ability that he can just like figure it out. And with Kate, it's still like an odd ability, but they explain some of it. Where with Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't do that at all.
No, he's just like got a gift.
Yeah,
he's just like, I got a feel for it here. Yeah.
I appreciated that they were able to do that with her because it's not as much as maybe there's not a single person on the planet that can do what she's doing. If I felt like there was at least some level of science behind some of that.
Now, is there a place for Bill Paxton to be like Kate's boss for the National Weather Service or wherever she was working in New York? Because like that was kind of his deal. He left to be a weatherman. Yeah. And then I'm sure at a certain point he moves up, the ranks for the National Weather or whatever the institution that she was working for. He kind of gets involved in there. Maybe he's like, you got a gift, kid.
Yeah, there's definitely room for that, but I think that they like very much didn't want it to tie directly to Twister, and I kind of like appreciate that because there was I'm blanking on who the actress is. I think it's Maura Tierney, who is Daisy Edgar Jones's mother in this.
Yeah,
and it seemed like it's Maura Tierney, and it seemed like they were trying to make it out like she kind of emerges from the shadows, and it's like, oh, is this Joe? That's her mom, and then it's just like, no, it's Maura Tierney, who's obviously a known actress and everything. So it's just like kind of throwing people off.
That would be cool. Well, that would have been some sort of a tie-in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, for where we get so many tie-ins with everything that we see, I kind of appreciate where it's like, no, we don't need to lean on that.
And that's just kind of how our minds operate now. We're like, all right, how can we connect the dots here? How is this all one shared universe?
Exactly. And maybe they can later. I appreciate, what? I'm glad they didn't do it with this one. I wouldn't be, I don't know if they're going to have a Twister, but if they did, then maybe that's where it's like, oh, you know what? Well, let's connect some stuff and have a little fun because, now we can.
Well, you're talking about connecting stuff and having some fun. We all love IP. Of course, this was a reboot of existing IP here. What if the third one involved Twister the game and you got like a naked Glenn Powell and then a naked whoever the it person is at the time there doing some Twister moves? Naked Twister? No?
It's I guess you can do that. You can
I guess that have to be naked, but
you can throw that one at Hollywood. Yeah, that went in a couple different directions I wasn't ready for.
Well, get ready because we might cover that some nakedness here. What story had the better romantic element?
Okay, yep, I'm leading us off on this one.
Okay, let me reopen up my clock. Okay, which story had the better romantic element? Nick's argument starts right now.
So obviously at first we see Tyler and Kate where there's a little bit of joking around back and forth and Tyler's really trying to find a way to get under her skin and see like how she ticks and everything, but quickly impressed by her. And as time goes along, I really appreciated the respect that Tyler showed Kate as he got to know her and got to realize like she's not like the other suits. There's a lot more to her. And it's just even before he learns about like her mistakes made in the past, like he just the respect is very like palpable. And then like the way that he handles Kate's predispositions about him as they work, closer and get to know each other. I felt like he also handled that well, and she was able to kind of work through her emotions because of how stable he was. To me, like their romance is a compliment to the tension. The romantic tension is a compliment to the overall story.
4, 3,
Whereas I don't know if yours
2,
necessarily is. We'll get to that later.
1.
Okay. All right. You have 30 seconds on the clock. You want your 30? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Give it to me.
Oh boy, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, this is such like a cheesy, stock romantic insert into this movie that doesn't really need it. Kate jumped ship from her college friend, who later says, "I have feelings for you," to team up with the cowboy social media star.
15.
We all knew this was inevitable. No one who came into this movie was like, "Wow, the hot guy and the hot girl aren't going to end up together." So it was probably one of the more predictable things in movie history.
All right.
It's morphin' time.
It works. That's what it was at the end of the movie. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
All right. 30. You got a full minute on the clock to explain why why Twister had the superior romantic element. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, again, I touched on this a little bit in my previous answer, but Billy and Joe, they were once in love, and their shared passion for tornado chasing rekindled their flame and realized that they are two kindred spirits, and that Dr. Melissa Reeves is just not right for Billy because she can't handle what he's into. And even then, that ends amicably. That's kind of what I'm taking away from it as a child of divorce, is that both relationships, though kind of like, why am I adversarial, maybe for lack of a better term, between Billy and Joe at beginning, you can tell it's in a playful manner. And again, they come across as regular people to me. And this feels like a very real situation that could happen. That probably does happen in life, and I know the hot girl and the hot guy almost always end up together. That happens in real life. That's why it's cliche, but this didn't feel as forced or as in the forefront of the movie as Twisters did.
Nice. Okay.
All right. I got there. I landed that plane.
Yes, you did. Give me my 30.
Oh, wow. That's making demands here. All right. Starts right now.
Their romantic element in Twister, the original, I felt uncomfortable with it the entire time. Like, obviously they work the things out and then they're on the same team, but it's just like, maybe that feels real, but it just, I don't know. It felt extremely awkward to me. And I felt like, yes, seconds. This should be tense and should be uncomfortable in some ways, but also there were times where it felt like, this is odd. This is clunky. Like, it felt like forced getting them back together at times.
5,
as much as he didn't work with the doctor. The Twisters 3, actually keep your mind 2, off the romance at times. 1. And it's welcome relief.
Now, maybe the difference is that I just felt at home with like the caddy back and forth. Like, maybe that just brought me right back to my childhood. I was like, this is my happy place here.
Maybe that's what it was.
And you're just like, what? This is just so like, I'm not used to this. What's going on here? And I'm like, no, this is me.
I guess it's like, I understand like we I mean, there's plenty of times where we see like uncomfortable relationships in like film or shows and stuff. I don't know. I felt like something was off with it, but again, maybe I'm off on that. So who knows?
It wouldn't be the first time,
This is true. Which opposing crew was the better tornado adversary? So we're talking about the team that was opposite Bill and Joe, and ended up being opposite Tyler and Kate's team at the end.
Yes.
We'll get to that later. You're up first, sir. 60 seconds on the clock. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I really love the idea that these are like bootleg grassroots storm chasers in Twister. And they're rivaled by a corporate-backed storm chasers with unlimited access to funds and technology and stuff. And that's kind of an age-old trope there, but it holds true for this type of movie. Twister is for the middle class. It's for the blue-collar people, while the reboot straddles the fence and tries to appeal to both sides. So neither is really good, neither is really bad, and they're both just kind of operating in shades of gray. And that's kind of where it loses me on it. Like, pick a side and go for it. Like something that a recent trope that I hate with most movies is that they have to be a justifiable villain, or you have to see where the villain is coming from. And that can work if you put the time in to develop the villain or the adversary or the antagonist there. But this one just didn't really feel like it needed that so much. And the switching back and forth, to quote Ray Allen, just wasn't for me. The switching back.
Quote Ray Allen. Who had that on their bingo card for this episode.
That's a deep cut. If you're big on Twitter or like listen to the Part of My Take podcast.
Oh my god. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take my 30.
All right. 30 seconds on the clock starts right now.
The crew opposite of Bill and Joe absolutely sucked, and in not like the right way. Like it's just like, oh, we're this stock like big bad or whatever. It's like, and it's like you were taking where like the element of like betrayal that's like crucial in Twisters. You don't have that in this. It's just like, oh, it's our old teammate and he's gone and he sucks. He can't even fucking track. He has to tail Bill the whole time. That's it. There's no talent whatsoever in the technology too. On a note that doesn't have to do with the argument, but related to what you brought up, I like this idea that there's like this underground community of like storm chasers. I do appreciate that as well. It's like for me, it feels like again like with Roadhouse, like the original Roadhouse, like that you have that there.
Everyone just knew who Dalton was by his first name.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really cool when you have that kind of shit. I think when it's well done.
Chasers Quarterly, like everyone gets like a publication of it, right? It's like bartender bouncer quarterly.
Exactly. Now I will say I think these type of people existing over like there being like an underground like bouncer kind of thing, that seems more, the Twister one seems way more realistic
for sure. And I will say 100% that the natural progression in 2024 is to make those grassroots underground storm chasers into social media stars. That just makes so much sense.
It does make a lot of sense. Okay, I will take my 60 now.
Yes. Well, okay. Do I get my 30 seconds to retort, right?
I just retorted your point.
Oh, and you went first.
Yeah. No, you went first.
Oh, you got I got lost. I got lost in the snake. You're 60 good. Yeah, seconds on the opposing crew of the better adversary. Gotcha.
Yes, yeah.
All right. That starts right now.
So my team is Storm, Par. Obviously, they like, so which is better? Like mine is obviously better because they benefit from better technology from their counterpart in Twister. And also at the same time, like they can track. They are capable of doing it on their own. That nobody is as good as Kate. There's no question about it. But the other reason that they're like better is they don't seem like a villain at first. And I know Wes kind of like picked that apart in some ways, but I also like how it's like it's unclear. It adds layers to the story. It makes it less cookie cutter. And over time, we learn what they're really about. Like it clearly makes them far and away better than their counterpart in Twister, who's just there to have Bill and like take us away from Bill and Joe's like like repairing relationship, and then the actual Twisters themselves. They don't really do a whole hell of a lot. They don't bring much to the table. Whereas Stormpar is like a third player, arguably the second player in all this, with the Twisters being the other one on top of Glenn Powell's team. Time. All right. You want your 30?
I do.
Okay. All right. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
These guys don't. Javi's group has no idea what they're doing. They recruit Kate because they have no idea what they're doing. And that's even more evident because you got Superman, David Cornsweat, telling everyone to go right when Kate just wants to go left. And that's like his only purpose there. And he's not even doing that very well. They put down one of the triangulators. Like it's blown up into the air. So they just have no expertise. They're supposed to be military guys. They're supposed to be good under pressure. And I'm not feeling the pressure for them. They're getting outdone by the Tornado Wrangler. Oh, that one gets stuck in my ear. It feels like my ears are ringing. That's like so high pitch.
I'm sorry. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I think actually, we're not. Here's the real question at the end of it all. And this is not one of our debate points, but who are you following when it comes to like tracking down a tornado? Like if you're like you're in a car and like you have Bill in one car and you have Kate in another car, and then they go and one goes right and one goes left. Who are you following?
Oh, that's See, my sexism may show through here, but I just happen to think that men are better with directions than women are. That may be like personal experience come into play here.
Oh
But
man.
I would probably follow Bill.
I think I would follow Kate just because at least like we got that whole bit explained. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like I feel like it's 6 dozen, six was it a dozen halfway, six, whatever the fuck that saying
Yeah,
is.
6 in one hand, a half dozen in the other. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's get to the actual last question here.
Yes.
Which plot was more compelling? And I'm leading us off on this one.
Yes, you are. Okay, so you are defending Twisters. 60 seconds on the clock starts right now.
Twisters has massive stakes right off of the rip. Kate loses all but one of her friends, and one of those friends includes her boyfriend, love of her life, as Wes mentioned earlier, and she nearly died herself. So this is massive. These are characters who we didn't know about from the trailers, but it's like this is her team. Like maybe I don't expect that they're necessarily going to die, and then they all get ripped from her. The first friend is like just like a casualty, just like starts floating away, and no one has any fucking idea. Instantly makes it feel like nobody is safe except for maybe Kate in all of this. More importantly, it makes for a really good comeback story because like she did fuck up, but at the same time, it's like how much can you blame her when you guys are dealing with tornadoes? Like this shit's gonna happen. Like she can't be the only one responsible for all of this. And then as these two teams are fleshed out, it becomes a battle of heart versus money. And you do get that in Twister, but with my movie with Twisters, Glenn Powell like leads that heart side, and Kate needed to redeem herself. This thing is gold. Jeez, I'm just gonna get that last bit out. The first bit is just massive to me. But anyways, you have 30 seconds on the clock to make your counterpoint on why my plot is not more compelling than yours. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I don't like how this kind of turns into a rom-com at a certain point in time and kind of gets away from that action blockbuster. It seems like it becomes rom-com first and then action blockbuster second, where in the early parts it was an action blockbuster with like hints of rom-com in there. But and also it's like Kate's like idea to kind of like eliminate tornadoes seems very ambitious, seems like too large to make them dissipate or whatever the exact phrasing is. But they also say that tornadoes are a mystery to humans, except for her. So, I did not get to the point that I wanted to. That's disappointing. I spent too much time grab assing. Like the last sentence I had was like really my main point.
Oh no! Yeah. Well, you can make it in your 60 seconds if you want.
I suppose. Let's see if I have time for it.
You have 60 seconds on the clock to explain why Twister, the original, has a more compelling plot. 3, 2, 1.
I really love the idea that Joe is trying to prevent what happened to her as a child, even if it's a minor 10 or 15 minutes of extra warning time, which was like, I think it was like previously like 3 or 4 minutes when she was a child. But I also like how this movie can be compared to like Jurassic Park in a lot of sense, where the Twister is the monster and they're trying to get away, and there's like a big kind of chase thing kind of happening there. So it's like Jurassic Park, but with nature, so that's kind of it. But to get to my point against the Twisters, I think this could be more compared to like a superhero movie with tornadoes, with how much they focus on helping the others and the idea of being the hero. Like they're actually like going to the towns to kind of offer aid and everything, where you don't really see that in Twister so much. They're just worried about chasing the tornadoes down. And quite frankly, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to spend time with. I don't want to spend time with a rom-com or a superhero Twister tornado weather movie.
Okay. All right.
30 seconds.
I will take it.
You can have it because it starts now.
So I mentioned before how both movies are like heart versus money, obviously done in different ways, because as Wes mentioned, like mine deals with more people in the aftermath of the Twisters as well. The whole rom-com thing, I find that funny. I feel like your movie is much more comedic than my movie is.
Really?
But I do feel like also in Twister, again, there is heart versus money, but
4,
instead of using the flip-flopper to really get that
2,
home, there's this betrayal that hits
1.
hard. Whew, okay. Yeah, I honestly, when you were talking about Twisters being more rom-com, I like thought about the music right away, and like just like stupid music, like them two running through a field while all these Twisters are in the background, like
yeah. I can see they're holding hands,
But I loved the sound, like totally not relevant to our debate at all. the soundtrack for Twisters was fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, I don't know how much Ram pays to be have their cars inserted into this, but this like makes me want to drive a Ram truck because I felt like everything were Dodge Rams.
Really, you know what? I honestly didn't even notice, but that's.
I think his truck is that behind you, and I think the white trucks of Javi's team were as well.
I think that's money well spent for this movie. I didn't notice it, but I also don't think I'm your target audience for that.
Well, 'cause I've been wanting to get a truck for some time now, but it's just like timing and everything. And trucks are like super expensive too. Like,
Sure.
they're sneaky expensive, like way more than what you would think.
There was a time where I wanted to get a truck. Like I thought, like I would, maybe like at this point in my life, like or when I get a house or whatever. But then I was like, I think I just kind of with like backing up. Honestly, like if I ever have to deal with that kind of shit, like you wouldn't. If I had a truck, it wouldn't be like my. I would hope. I would like to not have be my main transportation, but it's like how much? How can you go buy a third car that's a gas guzzler? But it's like backing that up. Like how you drive that thing around a city at all.
I think of that too, like going over the bridge. Like the bridges are so narrow, and those like extra wide cabs and everything like that. Like that makes me worried about like hanging over the edge or something like that too. But
exactly.
I'm with you on that. But what I also really loved, and we didn't really get a chance to talk about this at all, but his truck specifically with all the extra gear to weight down and like obviously the trenches or whatever, the locks that they go into the ground.
The drills,
The drills, thank you. Trenches. What an idiot. But I think that's really cool. I'm not sure if that's legitimate, though.
I don't know either. I do not know.
Because houses get ripped up, like trees get ripped up from the ground.
Yep.
So, like, you're digging, what is that, 2 feet?
Yeah. I
like,
mean,
it's like topsoil, like you're not getting into like solid stuff to like really anchor down.
Yeah. I don't know. When I saw that in the trailers, I was like, okay, that's really cool, but would that actually work?
Yeah. But, and again, also really cool, the fireworks inside the tornado. However, cool. I don't know, again, the physics behind that. With the wind and lighting of a fuse, there's apparently I would imagine a lot of moisture in the air. So like, do they get wet? I don't know.
Okay. What do you think's more likely that you can safely, because they shot them out like those
yeah, it's like you got them in your background right there, right? It's like those tubing.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yes. What do you think is more likely, like that could happen in real life, that you can shoot those up through a tornado, or that you can drill holes into a truck and then like be in like a level 3 tornado and not get sucked up?
I guess you can have like a flint and like a contraption or a button or something that like lights it in the bottom. And if it's in the bottom of that tubing, then maybe you're keeping it dry. You're not getting the wind of everything there. So I think that could be more feasible.
I agree.
I just don't buy the ground thing at all.
I do not. I like
very cool.
Yeah. It's one of those things where in the end, like, it's like, I don't care. Like, because obviously with Twister, where we had it with Bill, where it's like his ability is like not explained. It's like he has a sixth sense. Like with Kate, it was that, but then she does explain it. So it's like, oh, okay, well, like, and also like you said, these are popcorn movies. Like I have fun, and like I do like I'm gonna say some things about in the closing argument, but in the end, like that's what these movies are.
Yeah, 100%. I just had to bring that up because again, I thought that was like my biggest takeaway from the movie was like I kind of got like I lose the plot for a second because I'm trying to work through how that could work like physics wise.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we do 45 seconds on our closing argument. Wes, I'll give you the option here just in case you want to go last because you did lead us off, but it would be your turn, so your choice.
No, I'll go. We'll stick in order here. I appreciate that.
Okay, so you will finish things off here. 45 seconds on the clock to make your closing argument on behalf of the original 1996 Twister. 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, people of the jury, thank you for doing your civic duty and listening to these arguments here. I thought both parties brought forth good arguments. However, this is an election season. So when you do cast your vote, do you want to vote for the big budget, big money, overly produced backers, or root for someone who's going to support the middle class? And that represents the blue collar middle class. And that's what I think this movie Twister 1996 does very well. It's not overly star-studded. They just kind of let the movie tell its own story and let the twister be the star of the show. And that's all that we came to see, and that's some of the human interaction that happens is secondary, but also a delight.
Well done, sir. Well done. Thanks for the compliments too.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. We're reaching across the aisle here, you know?
Yeah, of course. That's what the show's all about.
It's an election season. All right, 45 seconds on your closing argument starts now.
Emotional investment, romance, and stakes. That's where I wanted to focus on why the sequel reigns supreme here. Emotional investment, we have loss, we have friendship, we have betrayal, disappointment, doubt, and a lot of that is just centered around Kate. Then we get all the fun friendship stuff. Is Tyler brings that to the mix especially, but there's like a deeper level with Kate as well. Romance, Twister, as I mentioned, uncomfortable when it comes to the romantic element. The sequel has a strong will they, won't they, and the relationship builds over time, become very respectful. And then the stakes right away. No one is safe. Kate loses the important people in her life, and the bar is set right off the rip, and you never know.
4,
and this
3,
further enhances the emotional
2,
investment we're able to have with Twisters.
1.
Man, I
Right.
got a lot today.
All right, we got it in there. You got it in there under the gun. You didn't get the pitch clock, man. Alfred pitch clock.
I was just gonna ask you, how do you feel about how you did in your final change my mind debate?
This feels on brand. I'm glad the clock has stopped, though. At that point, I was able to get all my words that I needed to get out, and now I can just stumble over everything.
I feel like I'm not just saying this. I really think we went out on our best debate between the two of us. I really think you represented it well. I think we both I think it was representative of the two of us in the best ways.
And I agree. And sometimes we take, it's tough to do. I think we both enjoyed this movie. I think that was probably evident, or both movies. And I think that was probably evident through the arguments. But sometimes it's very clear that one of us didn't like the movie too, which can be a little bit more combative. Maybe that's more entertaining for the audience. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. Maybe it's like Bill and Joe fighting, or arguing. Maybe it's like I don't want to see my parents fight. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes for. I think it makes for a good argument sometimes, because if you want to as long as you're representing a movie that you liked in the end, that's how I always felt with these. But I think the other thing is too, there are times where one of us is on their game and the other one's not necessarily in the debate. For
sure.
I think we've both been on that side of it, and it's on either side of it, I should say. But when we're both on our A game, that's where the original versus sequel is. Why it's the best thing that we do.
Sweet spot. And I think too, again, if we were to do some navel gazing, some early look back, this is probably one of the better branded content ideas that we've had on the show. I think that this has turned into a really interesting, unique way to kind of review movies.
And obviously I know we came up with the idea in 2020. I think it started with Spider-Man.
I think you're right.
Because I represented the original Spider-Man. You represented Spider-Man 2, and we both had fun with it. I'm pretty sure that was your idea. Not that it entirely matters.
We share the ideas here. It's a group thought.
But I do want to give Rossi a little credit, because he was the one who was like, this is an awesome idea. We both liked it. And it's not like we would have not done it further. But I think when we got that extra bit of feedback, it was that's okay, maybe we should try and make this a priority and do this whenever we can. And for something like this, Twisters, we were late to the game on it, but now we have our own thing that we do.
Yeah, so we definitely did Spider-Man. We did Home Alone 1 and 2 during the holiday season too. That was a lot of fun. I felt like maybe on one of my birthday episodes we did Rush Hour.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think we did Rush Hour
1 and 2.
I think when we do our final episode coming up, and again, a reminder for anybody who didn't listen to our Deadpool and Wolverine episode, that we're coming up on our final show, which is going to be the last Monday in August. I think we need to you and I have kind of talked about what we might do, and I think talking about those episodes specifically is going to be something that gets brought up.
Absolutely. And of course our spooky season, extravaganza bonanza there. I think anytime we get Tim Weisberg or some of his friends on, I'm blanking on his name.
Chris Balzano.
Yes, thank
Wow.
you. It was
I
awesome.
gotta
It
pull
was
that.
awesome, by the way. That was some fun stuff too.
That was. Yeah.
But enough navel gazing. We're gonna do that at a different time and place. But right now, get your tickets, ladies and gentlemen, because the Discharge Depot is leaving the station.
Choo choo, bitches.
I didn't do a whole lot this weekend. A little bit of yard work, a little bit of working on the property, all that kind of good stuff. But this week I played a little hooky from work and played golf with
Ooh.
Dr. Joe Gilmore.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was down in the
Mhm.
cable. Okay, nice. Who reigned supreme between the two of
I don't know. He wasn't really keeping score. I
Okay.
shot a 94 with an asterisk,
Okay.
playing dock ball there, just having fun, having a great day out in the course.
Nice.
But yeah, I played much better on the front nine than the back, mostly because
Geese.
there was no water. Well, no, thankfully there were no geese either. For the Animal Preservation Society, thankful for that. But there was no water. There was no cart girls on a Wednesday. It was like kind of an overcast day. So the course wasn't that busy. A lot of people were expecting rain in the forecast, but it ended up holding off. So that was great. So the course was like pretty empty. But there's no one at the turn. There's no like snack shack at the turn. There's no cart girl. There's no like water jugs on the course or anything. Now I have my black, water bottle here, which is 32 ounces. I was done with that water by like the 7th or 8th hole, just because of how humid it was. And I'm like dying of thirst by the last hole there. This is a course that goes by the moniker a public course with a private course feel. And they can't even give you drinks and stuff. So I had my full on Karen moment. We had found a putter on like the 17th green. So when we go back in to drop the putter off at the clubhouse, I say to the lady behind the desk, I'm like, I'm really disappointed here. We paid, $90 for a weekday course, and it's a nice course. I'm not sure if it's $100 course, but nevertheless, it was a $90.
Oh, I think you cut out, Wes.
I'm losing it. Am I back?
You
you
cut
hear me?
out. Yeah, you cut out. So you were saying nevertheless it was a $90 course. I need to hear all of this.
Yeah, it's just a $90 course. It's like nice course, but it's not that great. But like again, just like I'm not asking for like Evian bottles of water. Like just give me like a water jug, like a Gatorade jug that's filled up from the hose. Like I don't care. I just want to like quench my thirst. And they say, oh no, because of pricing and slower during the weekdays, we don't have a cart girl out there. We don't have the snack shack open. And I'm like, that's like so
This should come
lame.
with a warning. This should come with a warning.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that, like tell me, because then it's like, oh, okay, then I'll bring my own shit, because all we ever hear from golf courses all the time is you can't bring stuff out there anymore. Like you have to sneak it out there. And I get it. You're running a business, but at the same time, if you're going to have
Run
that
the business,
be respectful. Tell us, like, don't just take the money. That's insane. That's ludicrous. I feel like I've only been out once this year, and when I went out, I feel like I didn't see water jugs the whole time.
It's
like,
from what I've seen, it's a post-COVID thing. They don't put it out because like it wasn't put out there because of like shared germs or whatever, right? But since then, I think they've just gotten lazy and just were like, oh well, we won't put the water out there because like everyone's kind of conditioned for it. And
It's
to the
more money
lady
than
who I said that to's credit, she kind of passed the buck forward and was like, well, the lady who signed you in and where you paid should have told you that there's no water or the snack shack's not open or whatever the case was. So then at least I could have like bought a water bottle, in the clubhouse and then gone out there. But that was not relayed to me. So it was just disappointing all the way around,
Yeah, that's for. I mean, I don't know how much. Maybe I wonder how much that woman just thought on the fly and was like, "This is what should have happened." Like, because that's exactly what I thought right away. Like, this is what should happen.
Yeah.
So maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe she's thinking on the fly. But either way, it's like that's ridiculous.
Just very disappointed. But I wasn't disappointed with the time had.
Good.
It was great time playing with Doc.
Good. I'm
ultimate vibes guy.
Yes, of course. All right, that's good to hear at least. But yeah, geez, almost died from dehydration. That would have been.
Yeah, I was like so. It took me to the next day to get like fully quenched.
Jeez, brutal.
Yeah.
Well, I had it definitely a
Millipede?
little bit easier than you did. I did a Back to the Future marathon with the missus. It is now all of the Back to the Future movies are on Netflix. I feel like that happened within the past year or so, maybe. But she's a big fan of the first one, and we just kind of fell into a marathon randomly, and it's crazy. Like when we talk about movies holding up and whatnot. Obviously, Back to the Future holds up in a lot of ways. Obviously, the first two are superior to the third one, but still, what I really appreciated with these, as we've especially with with the MCU and just like the storytelling across multiple movies, there's a like paying like with the writing, like really respecting, like making use of every single moment that you have, and like being cyclical in a in the correct way with your writing, where it's like you mention this and then there's a payoff to it later, and then it could get brought up again, especially because you're dealing with time stuff and constantly going back to it. Where I haven't I watched we watched number one like some point in the past year, I would say, but
Mhm.
this time around, I really was paying, locked in on everything that was being said, and I was just blown away at how it's just like there's a payoff for this, and then you come back to it again later, and you come back, and it all is just in the natural flow of things. It's like you have to pay attention to every single detail, and I'd be really curious, like the people like Feige and whoever else were like the masterminds behind the MCU, especially from the early, like the onset. Were was there an influence for any of them like with regard to like Back to the Future, because I could see that being the case with the writers.
Well, Back to the Future does get brought up, and I do think it gets used a lot just for its time traveling aspects. So, like,
Mhm.
people use Back to the Future's template of
Yeah,
how time travel works to explain that. And I think in Infinity War Endgame, they've referenced Back to the Future at
a
some
thousand
point.
percent.
So I imagine, like, in the writers' room, they're choosing from like a couple different options of like the butterfly effect or Back to the Future, or maybe I don't know, maybe there's another time travel movie that I'm not thinking of here, but there's a couple
Those are
different routes
perfect.
that you can go through, and I feel like that's like the preeminent time
Mhm.
travel movie.
Those are definitely the first two. The Butterfly Effect's the other one that I personally think of as well. I mean, obviously now we think of Endgame and all of it, but yeah, I mean, like there's no question in that regard. I mean specifically like just making everything matter and kind of
Hmm.
coming back to it. So there's not like when we talk about not a lot of fat, like that's I think that's when like and when the MCU's at its best, it's following that same like playbook that Back to the Future has. And I mean, I feel like we just like it's exclusive to Back to the Future. It's just this is a story that spans across three movies. I just can't help
Hmm.
but wonder if that was a major influence. And honestly, what you brought up, where they cite it in Endgame, kind of again makes me think even more. So like, yeah,
Yeah,
there's probably someone who it
absolutely.
was really important to. So they probably had some significant say across a lot of the MCU movies, not just Endgame.
I'm pretty sure this is a cutaway skit in Family Guy, but there's one point where like Marty comes, or why can't I think of Christopher Lloyd's character?
Doc Brown.
Doc Brown comes back from the future and to tell Marty, he's like, Marty, you got to come with me to the future. He's like, what is it, Doc? And he's like, it's your kids, it's your daughter. She married a black guy. And he's like, that doesn't really bother me. Why? What's the
That
big
sounds
deal? And he's like, yeah, it doesn't. Oh, right. No, there's no problem. And then just kind of like walk out and then just like make Doc Brown a racist. And Marty's just like, no, that doesn't. I'm good with that.
That actually rings a bell. Yeah, jeez. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. A lot of good spoofs on Back
I
to
mean,
the
obviously
Future
the
there.
the ultimate spoof of that is Rick and Morty.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
that took up a good chunk of our weekend. So that was the big thing for me for this
Favorite
first week.
one? You like one or two better?
Oh shit. That's
Because they got the hoverboard in two.
I think I gotta go with two. I just think obviously one is great, and like they're definitely like they just the incest like is a like there's just a lot there, and
There's a
obviously
lot.
they do
Yes.
they handle it fine, but it's still like there's a lot less of that. So yeah, and then with Biff and everything, it's just it's interesting and whatnot. So
Who apparently was modeled after Donald Trump.
actually,
Yeah, I think the actor's inspiration was Donald Trump.
well, okay.
Is like kind
Biff
of like
all
a
around,
bully.
not just Biff like in 2 where he becomes like, Mr. Moneybags.
Maybe it's just 2 specifically.
I'm gonna look this up,
But
though. I'm very
I've heard this before. Like I've heard this a couple of times before. So
That's
whether
interesting.
it's like spanning like the whole character or just specifically in 2,
Mhm.
but 2 that makes sense.
I need to look this up. That's I can't it's like crazy for me too because like I was like when the third one came out, it was the year before I was born. Just time-wise, it's just never added up to me. It always just felt like it was a little like these were older than that, but
Oh, I
yeah.
thought you were going to say maybe ahead of its time.
Well, I mean, I
Uh,
just like from the
huh?
subject matter that's covered, and
Huh?
obviously you spent a lot of time with these. Yes. Oh wow, I'm sorry. That went, true fashion. It went over my head initially.
Yeah.
Yep, of course.
But
True
no, so
fashion.
I felt like these were, I mean, all joking aside, I thought these were ahead of its time.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, there's no question about that.
All right. Well, that does it for Twister versus Twisters, original versus sequel. Next week, we're going to be bumping up my birthday episode to discuss an exit survey of the Cape League Classic Summer Catch.
Yes.
Where we'll be getting some. This is actually probably will be the most knowledgeable exit survey that we've ever done because we got a baseball expert and a Cape Cod expert here,
Yes.
and that's all this movie is about, or
Yes.
lack thereof of each.
I'm very excited to like get into this and break this thing down. This could get pretty nasty, and this will not be at the normal bat time, normal bat place, right?
Yes. Well, you will get it the normal bat time, normal bat place, but we will be pre-recording that. So this Monday recording won't be live.
Yes,
But
my bad.
you'll still get it. Either way, same bat time, same bat place. Be there or be square.